think like a lot of people have like the fear of the unknown. Like, what about this? What about that? Will I have time? The more you tap into your unique personality and artistry, the more success you will have mentally yourself. Like, you'll be able to sleep at night and not like worry about what other people are doing.
Welcome, CEOs of the Six. Here is where we bring you the brightest minds in the beauty business and small business space to share their journey, their insights, and their tips for success. Today, I have a very special guest. I am so thrilled to have her on. Her name is Masuda Nouri. She is one of Toronto's leading bridal hair artists, and her story is nothing short of inspiring. She transitioned from being a CPA to a thriving beauty entrepreneur running a successful wedding hair business, hosting masterclasses, and launching one of the most innovative products that I personally use in my business, the hair donut. Please welcome Masuda Nouri. Right, welcome Masuda. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
So a couple things I've always wanted to tell you, and I don't think you know this. When we first met, my first impression of you was I was just naturally gravitated to you because you have this very soothing, calm energy. And I think that's something that I value a lot in a person because I know behind that there's a powerhouse individual. Like, I can see that, and I find you're just keeping your shit together at all times. So I feel like I got a really good read in the first few minutes. And then I was like, I gotta know this one. I gotta talk to her. And I think we first met at a friend's place, a makeup artist, right? Who's also happens to be a makeup artist. And I really, really do thank her for that introduction. And we've, worked together in so many different ways. We've done some brides together. We've done lives on Instagram. And I think both our energies.
You did my hair.
I've done your hair?
Yeah, remember I came and you did the straightening thing?
Oh, yes. So we've done some hair treatments in my studio. So lots has happened in the time that I've known you. And I think I see a kindred spirit. You are definitely someone that, like, I can see you as a mentor to a lot of individuals, and that's why I feel like this conversation is going to be so valuable. I'm just going to get right into it. Now, I know your background is in accounting. So what led you to hair, essentially?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. That really melted my heart. I really appreciate it. And likewise, right back to you, Sonam. So what led me to bridal hair from accounting. So I started my career in accounting. So my, regular path in life, like everyone, you go to school and you get some like great designation, and that's what you work at. So I was drawn to being to pursue CPA designation, and the bridal hair, or I should just say, when I first started, it was just hair in general. It wasn't just bridal hair, but what led me to makeup and hair at that time was just having some time off, and I just wanted to do something in that time off. I think everyone starts in this like as a side hustle, side business kind of thing, and it wasn't meant to be a business. It was just meant to be like do something for fun.
Really? I actually did not know that about you. Okay, it was supposed to be for fun.
Yeah.
And that time off, was it during like a mat leave, or was it just, you took some time after school and you're like, no, I want to learn something creatively?
So I was doing my master's at the time, and I had to do my last and final exam, which is like, so I had like a 2 to 3 month period off, and it was during the summertime. And just around that time, like Instagram had really picked up, and Dress Your Face, she was picking up on Instagram. So she kind of showed me like what's possible in this industry. And I was like, she came and did a master class. So I went to take her master class.
The Toronto one?
The Toronto one.
I've been to the Chicago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
I
you
think
went.
our timing, our career path times were very similar.
Okay.
And that's,
yeah.
She also inspired me very much. So
yeah, I think honestly it's so crazy, like when one person decides to do something, the number of people that just take inspiration from that. And 100%. So the number of people have told me that it's crazy. And since then, because of just being inspired by her, I just put out an ad, got my first customer, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah. And that's because she really did lead by example amongst many at the time.
Yeah.
But she stood out because she just really went for it. And being a South Asian woman, that wasn't as common at that time. So I
Agreed,
think
yeah.
a lot of us like found something in her, and we're like, okay, this is very relatable, and it feels like it it's a we can approach it as well.
Yeah.
And she shared a lot. So I
She
loved
did.
and I really appreciated that about her. And I said one day I would love to be able to pay that forward in whatever way
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah.
for our industry professionals. So, I mean, this is kind of why we're here,
Yeah.
right?
100%. I think what you hit on something important, which is like she shared a lot. And I think like when it's a new territory and you're not really sure, just her giving little insights really like makes a difference.
Absolutely. You know, your camera settings, how to pose, how to get your clients to pose at, there's just so many things that we picked up from all her classes and online and all of that. So I guess that's why we're here. But back to you, because I'm very, very much interested in your path. So you shifted that way and you sort of did it for fun.
Yeah, just for fun. It was only when I started that I realized that I have like don't know about the space at all, and I was very intrigued. So I didn't want to give it up, even though I finished my exam. I'm working at like one of the largest accounting firms. I'm supposed to be starting my accounting career, but like I couldn't let go of like my interest in the industry, so I just kept going with it.
You're a CPA, right?
Yes.
So what made you pursue that path? Like backtracking besides being, just like why that specifically?
I mean, being a CPA is one of the top designations in the business world. So if you think of science and you think of business, it's one of the top designations. And, I wanted to have a very strong career. And when I did my research, like being a CPA can lead you through so many different paths. Like a lot of the large CEOs of like banks and other corporations, they are all CPAs. And like, not only that, but like you can go into consulting and you can go into having your own business and whatnot.
Which
So
is
I
what you
love the
did.
big, exactly. And I love like just all the different potential paths. And also like I knew financially would be really good. And I was interested in like business accounting versus sciences.
Right.
So that's it. I was just like, this is for me.
You're a numbers girl.
Yeah, I'm numbers.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So, did you face any fears or any self-doubt along the way? And if so, how did you overcome those?
The fear of like letting go of accounting. and
Yeah,
going into
fear
my-
of becoming a bridal artist and, stepping into a whole industry that you don't really know much about, but like just going all in. Like you just have to become laser focused because you're like, I love this.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into the industry, I didn't know much about it, but all I knew is that like I had an understanding of what the customer wanted, because I myself was really like I really knew what I wanted if I was getting my hair and makeup done, and so I felt like I understood what my customer wanted. So that's all I was focused on, like
From the
other
client
stuff.
experience.
From the client experience and like the results.
Right.
And so like that understanding is just kind of what led me, but like fears and like 100% like along the way.
Could you name any, or was like any specific incident in the beginning of your career that was like, oh my gosh, I have some self-doubt here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to perform this way, or I might have this client that just booked me. It seems like she might be super difficult. Any of those situations?
Honestly, like I have to put myself back to when I first started, and like fear is in every moment. So it's not like was there fear? It's literally like you don't know what you're doing at all, and it's impossible to know all of it. And at that time when I first started, I didn't go straight into taking classes and whatnot. So like I just kind of was self-taught, but like every single client, it's brutal. Like they want to look perfect, they want to look good, and you don't even know if you can do it, and you're learning as you're doing. And so like you're just hoping for the best, you're trying your hardest, but like all throughout you're like, yeah, for sure.
So I guess as you're facing this fear, you're also trying to tap into as much logic as possible as you're working, because you're kind of in a corner at this point, right? When you have a client, for example, who has frizzy hair and that person doesn't have hair like yours, and you're just like, okay, I don't know how to manage this. I haven't really learned this yet, but what logic says is I need to put something to smooth. And let me see what I have in my kit for that. I'm going to apply this and kind of hope for the best. So I know those are like the initial stages, and I know I've been through many of those situations myself, and you kind of just have to tap into logic, essentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that part of your brain just gets stronger. You're just working out that muscle a little bit more, and here you are.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I think there has to be like a desire to want to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then like be willing to like problem solve and like just
Yeah.
try all the different ways and then see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as women, we're also natural problem solvers. You're going to laugh. Just before you got here, I had everything, every minute mapped out from 5 o'clock this morning. I'm an early riser, super early riser. I had every minute, every moment mapped out, and like, this is how it's going to go. Then I messaged you, you know, I said, hey, I want to order some breakfast brunch from Heel. And there were no drivers, no Uber drivers. And I'm like, okay. And then my mom needed some assistance, and then my dog got sick and he started throwing up everywhere. And I'm just like, this is hilarious. Like how this happens. But I'm just like, in that moment, I'm like, okay, bang, 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 bang. This is how I have to do it. This is what I have to cut. This is what I got to do. Yeah. And, you know, we started on time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So it's funny how that works.
It's such a great tool it's such a good skill to develop in business and in life in general.
100%.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, viewers watching this, a lot of our audience, they're women. And I want them to sort of know that you can tap into these areas in your mind, and you know, you see other people that are doing it on a daily basis. And, you know, as much as you're going to face fear, you just got to go in.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely,
head on. So what advice would you give to someone who is hesitant to follow their passion or sort of start a side hustle, and they're just like, I know I have to do this, I know I want to do this, but they're just stuck? You know?
Such a good question, only because where I am now, I'm just so happy that I actually started. Because like, if you think that I'm going to start and then I'm going to have all the answers, and then I'm going to, once I know all the answers, then I'm going to launch this new side hustle or whatever like that, it doesn't work that
never
way.
happens.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't happen in a job, right?
It doesn't happen in a job. Like, you work your way up, or anything like you want to start or learn. You will know that there's like different levels. You know, you're beginner, then intermediate, and then advanced. And so like, you have to start, because if this is what you want to do, or even just test out and see if it will happen, it's so important. I think that you just have to start and not hesitate, because you will only know the answers when you start, not before. Like, you can collect as much information, but you will only know like how to adjust things and how, whether you even like it or not, once you actually do it. So just get started.
Because sometimes I think people tend to have like starter paralysis. And what I find, and that's what a lot of my clients that talk to me, they're like, you know, I need a change. I need to do something just for myself. But every time I try, I just freeze and I just don't know which direction. And my usual advice to them is, first of all, read Atomic Habits. Right? That's your first entry level book to just getting anything done. And just show up, you know, in that moment, in that minute, and just show up and do that first thing, the first step. So if it is, you know, wanting to be a bridal hair and makeup artist, get your friends and start painting their face or start curling their hair. Like, just there. And then next thing you know, it just sort of like comes to you what you need to do next, right? Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And I think like a lot of people have like the fear of the unknown. Like, what about this? What about that? You know, will I have time? Will I do it right? What if I make this mistake? And then what ends up happening is that what if builds and builds, and it becomes bigger, and then you extend the time to starting even more.
It calcifies. You know?
Absolutely. So I think like, just like knowing that we all have that, and the only difference between you and I is that we just started. So just get started.
Yeah, that's really good advice, actually. So what would you say were some of the first steps that you took in your business when you decided to fully switch out of accounting?
Yeah, so after it took me quite a bit of time to actually step away from accounting, but when I did, I think I wanted to just take a big picture approach with the business. And I thought of like, what is it that I need to be doing now that this is full time? And I wrote down like, here's the vision for this area of the business and here, and just mapped it out and stuck with it. You know, I have to just trust that like this is the path that other business leaders and other people are saying you need to take for like a fully functioning business to be successful, and just trusted in that and like created some stability and like consistency. So yeah, just kind of like reset the business, the vision, and then just kind of went from there.
So you sort of started from a vision, and then your mapping, was that just something that you kind of put down on paper, such as like, I don't know, I'm just guessing, you know, when you'll hire somebody, like, and how, like you set certain goals, would you say?
Yes, I definitely can go into a lot more detail about this, and I feel like it'll take such a long time, but like there's so many different areas in business, right? Like you have your marketing side, and then you have the customer service side, and you have your goals, and you have your all your metrics and everything. And so just looking at each area and saying, how does it look right now? Where do I want it to be? And then how do I get there? And setting the goals, like my micro goals and, you know, macro goals and all that.
So would you say it would be helpful to, because this is kind of how I did it as well. I kind of saw myself as a corporation. I am obviously the marketing department, I'm customer service, I'm admin, I'm all. We are wearing lots of different hats. And then I kind of broke it down into short-term and long-term goals. And then I just focused on the short-term goals. So it's like, what can I do immediately? What do I have access to? What are my resources? And, you know, in the beginning, you don't have a lot of money to start off with, and you don't have like this, like the investment, right? So I was like, this is my budget. So I remember when it came to, you know, supplies and tools, for example, and, you know, that goes under operating costs. I'm like, okay, this month I have $50, you know, that I can spend. How can I best spend that $50? What do I need more? Do I need this brush right now? Or do I need to, you know, get a good camera or put it towards that? So it was a lot of those things that I recall doing, you know, 10, 15 years ago. And then eventually the goals just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then being able to see further, like, okay, in 5 years, I want to hire help. I want to have a team. I want to be able to have subcontractors that I send out. Or in these many years, I want to teach. You know, having that end goal is really, really helpful, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like sometimes like when you're a complete beginner, you don't really know what that end goal could be.
That's
like you
true.
don't even have that huge goal picture, because like you're still trying to figure out the small things. So yeah, first start with your like small, tiny goals. And then as you continue to become more and more knowledgeable, you'll eventually like be able to see like which direction it could potentially go. Because at the beginning, you're just trying to get clients and just even make money.
Right.
And then after you can make money, then you're like, okay, now I can dream bigger, right? And I don't think that it's necessarily like that you should go that way. Like you can dream big right from the beginning. But if you're not really sure which direction to go, because you can go in so many directions with this, you can just at least start with like something
Start
small.
with that, your short-term goals and just your baby steps, and focusing right on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I think a big fear for a lot of individuals is, how am I going to get clients? You know, how am I going to build this? How am I going to get my first 5 brides, for example? So what would you say, or what advice can you give to viewers on like how did you do that? How did you develop your clientele?
So for me, like I said, it was an accident. I kind of just wanted to get started, and I put and like, I don't know, for me, it's a funny story. I just put my first ad out on Kijiji.
Okay,
And
Kijiji.
Kijiji
Wow.
was like my friend that summer, because
I loved Kijiji actually at that time.
at that time it worked. Like I was like, am I like, no one else knows the secret but me? Like it was like the weirdest thing. I was like, I was posting as a completely new artist, and it just was working for me.
How many years ago was that?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah,
Right?
10 years ago. I don't know. I feel like some people say it still works, but yeah, Kijiji. And you want me to keep going to add like other? Yeah. So like that's where I started. Like so you can do like Kijiji, Craigslist, and I was able to get clientele to a certain degree there. And I've tried so many different avenues. Like there's wedding directory websites which they cater like they have different vendors available on their website for brides, and so you
I've
can.
done a few many of those
pay
as well,
to
yeah.
get on those. I've joined other people's teams. Like, so I joined one girl's team, and that was super, super helpful for me, because just getting some clients through her and practicing, and also like seeing her in her zone and how she's running a business and a team.
How she's treating her subcontractors, like what's the process, what's the flow, just something as simple as like, what is she using to send you the calendar invite, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything. Like when you don't know anything and this person is kind of like just working for anyone who's already doing it, you gain so much insight.
100%.
Yeah.
And that is sort of the best way to go about it. And tell me if you agree with this or not. In this day and age, because a lot of people are not using Kijiji and Craigslist, what about just outreach? You know, just there's artists that you're following and that you like, kind of compile a list and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so like honestly, like I the list goes on. So like after I did the wedding directories or whatever, I think what's the right term for them?
Online wedding directories.
Yeah, online wedding directories and Kijiji and Craig. That's how I started. I'm
Yeah.
not saying necessarily like that's what I would do now, but like Instagram just grew more and more. And I did a lot of collaborations with industry vendors through like photo shoots. And at the time, I was just looking for ways to like get photos, but I didn't realize just by getting to know like different vendors that I would be more known in the industry, and then they would talk about me and they would refer as well. And then I did a lot of collaborations with influencers. So like when you're hungry, you will come up with ways for getting clients. So I reached out to like influencers and I was like, can I do your hair? And I would get posted on their page. And what will end up happening is that when you do all of these things, you're creating like a movement,
A machine,
and do it and don't give up. And you will see, like I did that, and after a while I realized then the flow just started to come in, and people started to book, and they're like, and I would ask them like, where did you find me? And I'll be like, I found you on so-and-so's vendor page, or this influencer's page, or
this
whatever.
person in this industry recommended you.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's
really
Instagram ads now. Like there's
Yeah.
so many different
I find like Instagram and Facebook ads has its own thing going on. It's like, it's a science.
100%.
But I also know individuals who have just posted an ad and it's worked wonders. So it doesn't hurt to at least just for lead generation sometimes and making conversation. But I think you're right. The best way, and that is exactly how I recall doing it myself, was just collaborations. I did advertise in bridal magazines at the time.
Yes.
Which I found was sort of a waste. I'm just gonna say that quite honestly, because you're just kind of buried in there. But I did love the photos that I got from them, and you know, I do find in this day and age the one-on-one connection with individuals and like talking to them, just showing up as your best self. You know, they remember you. People remember energy. I'm really big on that.
100%.
And they say, this person, she was organized, she showed up on time, and I want her to get more work.
That's such a good point. I think like when you're doing all these things, it's about how you show up. So when I did like do the influencer collaborations, like other influencers were willing to work with me because they saw the outcome of my other tutorial or whatever.
Right.
Or like collaborations on photo shoots, the way you would show up, like the energy, like people wanted to work with me because I was motivated to win and I was motivated to grow and whatnot.
In a very calm manner, like you spread calmness around you.
Yeah,
so that
totally.
is definitely something I'm sure people are picking up on.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't talk about all the failures of like trying, but that's the part of it is like I've done like commercials and I've done like what do you call it, like wedding shows and whatever, and then and sometimes those will work for you actually, and it won't work for me, but it depends on like your language and your business, and the way that you do it will resonate with the customer more than the way that I do it. Maybe I'm better with like influencer marketing, whereas you might be better with like the shows or with other stuff.
You sort of have your strong suit. 100% agree with that. And you sort of, you know how to work one way just completely and utterly well. So you kind of want to just dive deep into that. That makes complete sense. So another fear I think a lot of individuals have is that the wedding industry is very, very competitive. And so how do you navigate that? How do you set yourself apart?
So I think that the more you tap into your unique personality and artistry, the more success you will have mentally yourself. Like you'll be able to sleep at night and not like worry about what other people are doing, but you'll get the results too. And in the business world, it's called branding.
Yeah.
Right. And so building a brand that like really is unique to you, your personality, your style, your approach, your messaging, your tone of voice, just all of that is what I think will set you apart. Because if you're just trying to copy someone else's style and whatnot, it will work to a certain extent, but you'll burn yourself out eventually. You're not going to enjoy what you're doing. Someone else is going to end up copying you and take that take that away from you.
And that will happen.
Yeah.
No matter
it
what.
will happen.
Especially if you're excelling in your career. You'll find copycats.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And today I think branding is not just, part of the business world. It's just part of your personality. Like everybody wants a brand. Everyone wants something that they're known for. Right?
Yeah.
So outside of bridal hair and makeup, like what would you say is your personal brand?
Oh, my personal
brand?
brand?
Tell me something unique about yourself that, you kind of incorporated into your business.
So I think that I definitely try to add a personal touch to the page I do share like behind the scenes of my life a little bit and like what I enjoy. So, within the 10 years, I've gone up and down with that, but definitely like, I love having healthy foods. I love like taking care of myself. I love sharing tips. So I do like really focus a lot on education as well. Mindset stuff. I've shared a lot of mindset stuff in the past as well. And I feel like I love business and learning about business as well. So like I love putting that out there. So
the operating side of it.
The operating side, I love it because that's my accounting side. And like
working on your business rather than in it when you're there's two aspects to it, right?
Yeah. And you know what's so weird is that like this is like it's all about art, but for me I enjoy the business side of it sometimes even more than the art, like the artistry.
I'm right there with you.
And I'm like trying to figure out like how can I bring that more into my business because I didn't find myself to be naturally an artist, but it just fell into my lap and I did it. But I'm just like, I love growing the business. That's even bigger for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit of an interesting question with regards to pricing. So how do you price yourself at the same time remain competitive in this industry?
So I priced myself. You have to start your pricing at industry level and you can increase it as you are becoming more and more known in the industry. You're establishing yourself as a brand, which is what I did. And also your demand, right? Like, and then there's the personal side of it as well. Like how many clients do you actually want to be taking? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? But the way I like to price my services is to have a large enough margin to feel excited to continue to grow my business. Because if you don't have enough margins, then you're just going to be like living really in a scarcity mindset and like you need enough wiggle room. And that's when you can put back into your business and deliver even more to your customers. So like I do know my demand, I know my brand and my space in the market. I know what I can offer to my customers and like hair or makeup is like one of the most important things on your wedding day. So I know what I'm offering.
Because that's what you're going to see so many years later. You're going to see your photos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you want your hair and makeup to reflect, and you want it to last through time, right? It's like, okay, oh my gosh, this was flawless, and I'm still in love with it.
Exactly.
Because I remember I know a lot of people, a lot of my hair clients, they tell me, it's like, oh my gosh, I got married, so many years ago, and I wish I could just do it again because I look at my pictures and gosh, I hate my pictures. I didn't like my makeup and hair, but we didn't have anybody at that time.
Yeah, totally.
So, okay, yeah, that's really good advice, and we'll be moving on to the next question.
Okay.
So your academy offers masterclasses. So how did you transition from, being an artist to becoming an educator?
So I think I naturally am a teacher. And like even like in life, I love giving advice and I love helping people. And especially like when I know how to do something and I feel like, oh my gosh, I figured this out. I love just like sharing it. And so for me, naturally, I was a teacher as soon as I started to do the art. And I know some people are like not a big fan of like teaching before you're ready. But for me, like, I just wanted to share, like, okay, I know how to do hair, or I know how to do makeup. And if someone needs to know how to do it, I'm going to share what I know at this level.
Yeah.
And so I don't think all artists are teachers. I think you can be a really great artist.
I agree.
But you not necessarily know how to teach. And I know that from the number of students who take my courses, and they're like, I took the course and she's a great artist, but I didn't like come out of that.
Oh yeah.
Knowing much.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, I also took a course from you because I was struggling with Hollywood waves back in the beginning when they started becoming so popular. And I was like, I just can't. And I just don't even want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because that's something you specialized in. And I know you would not hold back from sharing, just based on everything I saw on your profile. And that's the kind of person I want to learn from.
Right.
And that's the kind of person I am. You know, I'm just ready, willing to share anything and everything as long as it benefits.
Even your page, like the amount of stuff that you share on there, the tips is amazing.
Yeah, a lot of times it's like just conversations I'm having with people on a daily basis. And sometimes mid-conversation, I'll be like, oh my God, that's a really good content point, and I'm gonna make something around this. Right. You know, so
you're always thinking like value add and stuff. And so for me, I think it was my personality. Like I didn't think of myself like, oh, now I wanted to get into education. Like I just naturally was gravitating towards it. I put it out there. Do you want to learn? Someone signed up, and I love doing it, so I just continued.
That's amazing. And you just completed your
3-day UBHC course.
Is this how many years have you been doing this now?
I don't know exactly, but at least 6 years or so.
6 years, right? Yeah, because I do recall it's been a few years, and usually around this time of the year, you know, winter and spring. Sorry.
Yes.
This is the time where you should be spending your time to learn, and that I think you time it really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think there's one in
November
spring
and
one in
November,
February. Okay,
yes.
so not spring. So one of the most amazing things that I've come across as an artist myself are your hair donuts. I absolutely love them. So tell me more, tell everybody more about how you came up with this idea, and just tell me the whole backstory.
Yeah, so it's like this conversations reminded me so much of like the beginning hustle. And I think like when I was, for me, like using padding and hair donuts in hairstyles was just second nature to me. I didn't realize that like a lot of artists don't actually know that you can use it or that you can customize it and all of that. And so I would always be going shopping looking for padding, and I couldn't find like anything, or they would be sold out, or they're too small.
The quality.
Or the color or the quality would be too stiff.
Yep.
And so I found someone that can make them for me just for me. And then I was into my social media, and I was like, I need to grow my social media. I'm going to start making tutorials. And I started to use them in my tutorials, and I would get people messaging me like, where did you get that from? I want some. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell this. And I just the batch that I had, like, brilliant. I think I had like 50 or 100 for myself, and I put it up on my website, and I was like, if someone buys it, then we'll see. And I got my first customer, and I was like, okay, this is like in demand, and I'm gonna do this. And it's insane because it connected so many artists, because they were like, I didn't know you could do this. This is amazing. And just the rest is history.
I would go to the ends of the earth to get padding. Like sometimes people that are coming from India, actually they use padding a lot
in India
there.
Okay.
As I'm sure they do, you know, in all of South Asia, because they love the big hair, right?
Yeah.
And I was always ordering these things, or I was making them.
Yeah.
You know, I was saving the little nets that hair extensions came from, and I'd go to these beauty supply, and I'd get like the really like the nylon hair a lot of times,
right?
And I try to like, you know, figure it out, and I'm like, this is just so complicated, and a lot of times the pins would jam or they wouldn't go through. So when I came across your hair donuts, I was like, this is just brilliant. And I think I've added them in my goodie bags for some of my master classes as well, and those students were like just blown away, you know. So in a way, I love how this whole thing kind of trickles and like brings so many people together. And you're a true problem solver.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Totally.
So,
Whenever I have a problem, I think like a lot of the things that I've started in my business have been because of trying to problem solve. Yeah.
and I guess
Totally.
that's just what entrepreneurship is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Totally.
So, one of the challenges that I've had in the past, and that's probably just because I'm such a schedule oriented person, that I used to find it very challenging. But of course, being in this industry, you do have to sometimes, allow for things to happen. So, how do you deal with clients that want to make last minute changes? Like you have 3 or 4 brides booked in a day, for instance, and now they're like, oh, we're delaying our start time, or we need you to come early.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate through that?
My favorite way to handle it is before. And you have multiple touch points, like when you can. So I'll have tips for like the day of stuff, but like for me, like building, I think it's so important to build in things that happen in your business by predicting them, like, so knowing in advance that these things are common in the industry versus like trying to assume that it won't happen. And so because of that, like I leave enough wiggle room between brides anticipating changes. One, two, we touch base with the customer at least 2 to 3 times before, so that we're reiterating the start time and all the things required in advance. And then 3, if something comes up on the day of, I think just getting like super laser focused and like trying to maintain the energy where it's not negative. Like,
it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's kind of see what we can work with.
Yeah. And like, I think like I bring it back to the bride and it's her most important day. So I don't make it about me. Like I did everything I could in advance. And if there's a 1% of bridal situations where, it's not going to go the way that I want it to, I'm going to make it about the bride, not about me. So I try to like do whatever I can to accommodate her. But at the same time, it's not ideal because I do think it impacts the bride's hair and makeup eventually. But like I just focus on just getting what needs to get done.
Yeah.
That moment.
How do you deal with someone that feels entitled for you to make that change? Have you ever come across that situation? It doesn't happen often, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. So I think like if a client is really adamant of wanting a certain way, then listing the risks of her wanting it to be that way and then letting her make the final decision. Because I don't think that we don't want to make it work. It's that we know all the things that will happen as a result of accommodating that request. Right. And so a lot of the times the bride is not aware that we are the professionals. We are not just giving general advice. We're speaking from a place of years of experience. So knowing that her answer and her entitlement is probably coming from a place of inexperience.
Right.
So I love educating my clients and saying like, sure, we could do that. And just want to know that you're going to be okay with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's going to happen as a result. And then and saying here are all the risks and then letting her make the final decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just kind of staying calm in that moment and just reiterating, communicating as clearly as possible. And I think a lot of times when they're feeling entitled and they're a lot of times they're frazzled, and so when you are bringing your calm energy, that tends to soften them up, I find.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of it has to do with the tone you bring, and that basically can kind of control a lot of environments.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 directions you could take. I've seen artists, they've become extremely passive and they allow the customer to start to take control of the situation. And it doesn't mean that the customer shouldn't know what they want. It's that as a professional, the moment you allow the customer to start to adjust things, when you've already, like, you already know what is the situation requires. It's kind of like, think of it like a coach, like a basketball coach is coaching the players, and if the players start to coach the coach, there's going to be a mess up in the game. The coach understands their opinions, but he needs to make the ultimate decision. So you can't be too passive and you don't want to be too aggressive because you're going to lose your customers' cooperation. So I think you just have to be like really firm. I love being really firm and clear, and then just allow them to make that final decision. But I don't hold back on saying, we could do that, sure. But here's everything that's going to happen.
Yeah, because I think a lot of new professionals are people pleasers. And there's so much discomfort. So I think a lot of times you have to sort of learn to regulate your own emotions in the process, and it's
Too
not
much fear.
too much fear. It's also, it's not a personal attack. You know, if someone's being a bit irrational, you know, it's like, no, well, you know, I'm sure you can squeeze an extra 15 minutes, you know.
The other person's reactions and like their way of handling things should have nothing to do with you.
With how you react.
Like you should have your rules on the business and things like that, and you listen and you give that listening ear, but you come back to like your rules kind of,
because essentially then you're giving away your control.
Yeah.
Right. And so being very clear, and you know your policies, you know, and you just reiterate them calmly. I think you know, most people are quite understanding. Most people are good.
Yep.
You know, 99% of people I've come across are just genuinely like, hey, I'm so sorry. This is what's happening. I'm a bit delayed. Like, is there any way you could squeeze out an extra 15 minutes? And a lot of times you want to make it work. It's like, okay, fine. You know what? I'll skip lunch on my way to my next bride. It's fine. Who cares? I'll eat after 18 hours.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I think
but
if you
you'll
make
do
it
for
about
them.
the customer, at the end of the day, like we're in customer service. So if I'm not willing to accommodate my customer to make them happy, then, you know, I'm not in the right business.
Yeah.
So like if you can accommodate, do it. But it's at the same time, we have to be honest with them and what that's going to entail.
Yeah. And not at the cost of you hurting your next appointment either, right?
Exactly.
I think that's a really big one to remember, because you have to have the backs of all your clients.
100%.
Yeah. So, you know, some people think becoming a hairstylist, becoming a bridal hairstylist is easy. So what would you say to those who underestimate the work that it takes to get into this?
So if we're talking from someone who wants to get into this industry, it's sometimes good to underestimate the amount of work required to actually get into.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I wasn't expecting myself to say that too. And then I realized sometimes you need to underestimate like how much work it actually takes so you can get started. Get started, get your foot in the door. And the reason why now I can easily do things is because of years and years and years of practice. Right. And obsession, to a level of obsession. And
you need obsession.
You need obsession. Anyone who is doing well in anything in life is not an accident.
Yeah.
It's not luck. So we can do this in a general term. Like, this is not luck. If you see someone having a good body, a good relationship, good business,
100%.
Good social media, good connection, whatever it might be, it's not an accident.
Yeah.
That person put in a lot of work, and they can easily give you like general advice now, but like probably they don't remember all the, like I remember I would put in hours and hours of work on my mannequin and dissecting photos and things like that now I can just easily teach and say, but like and there's not a lot of good teachers out there, so like I had to do so much work to figure that out on my own. But
you were obsessed with it. You were
obsessed with it,
always just thinking about that all day long.
Yeah.
And you're actually absolutely right. It's interesting that you say that, because it's kind of reminding me of why I pivoted. I was no longer obsessed with it. You know, and I was very honest with myself at the time. I had a great run. I loved it. Pandemic hit. And then I realized when I had all that time that I was no longer obsessed with it. And what I was starting to get obsessed with was color. Like I went back to my roots suddenly, because I that was the first thing I did. Right out of school. I went to hair school. I got my license, apprenticeship, all of that. And I started recalling all of that the entire time during the lockdowns. I was just sitting there on my mannequin day in and day out with like, you know, podcasts in the background and just painting and painting and painting and painting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's so cool.
The obsession aspect of it is absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think it's a natural journey to like transition and move on in business and like trust that that's like just the direction you have to go.
Yeah. And it's okay to listen to your instinct, but also just constantly pivoting and constantly moving without, you know, putting in the effort and the work, then you have no direction. You're just sort of a hamster in a wheel.
I totally agree. Yeah.
So what would you say to those who actually underestimate what you do on a day-to-day basis? I feel like, you know, being part of our South Asian community, a lot of times we have like certain family members that actually just don't know what goes into it. They just think, oh yeah, we're just, you know, getting people glammed up, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't think that the beauty space is respected like you would be respected being a doctor or a CPA or whatever it might be. How to handle it, I don't handle it anymore. I let people have their opinion.
Yeah.
And I enjoy my life the way it is. I don't I think that like if you're waiting for that ultimate satisfaction, I have seen a lot of families turn around, like particularly for me, like seeing my success and like, you know, what I call success for myself, like they are noticing, and it's a proud moment, but by the time it gets to that, you've stopped caring.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. So like you want that validation, but you're not going to get it. And I think that you have to just live for yourself.
You just kind of move on and don't focus on it, because that can sort of take over. And sometimes your goal is, okay, well, I want to get this done and I want to reach this place because I want, you know, you're just focusing on trying to shut people up. And that's not necessarily always the right intention to go
you
about.
are living for other people.
Then you're living
in that
for other
way.
people.
Like,
exactly.
I for so long didn't want to let go of my license and like let go of that because of how well respected it is. And I wanted to like make sure that I'm not making the wrong decisions. So, but eventually you just have to be willing to let it go.
So do you feel like bridal styling is fairly priced, or do you think there's a misconception about pricing in general?
I think that you can find hairstyling pricing on all different levels, and you will have like I had customers when I was charging $50, and I had customers when I was charging $500 or more. So I think that your customers are smart and they see what they're getting, and you do have customers also that value the art differently. So you'll have customers who don't value it and are asking for discounts and are wanting the cheapest price, and you have customers who absolutely value and see that the only reason your art is where it is from years of hard work and hard work. And to be able to easily and effortlessly give them exactly what they want comes from the amount of work that you put in. And so there are lots of customers who genuinely trust that, and so that's why like this is such a booming industry, that you can charge, you know, fees that people respect and are willing to pay because they value it so much. And like your photos of your hair and makeup, into my opinion, are the most important thing of your wedding day. So like that is invaluable.
Absolutely. And especially as a bride, like you have a vision, and your priority is like that is your priority, your look. Then you're willing to spend that kind of money. And you know, it's kind of funny in the GTA, you know, doctors and makeup artists and hairstylists make the same amount of money,
if not more,
you know, if not more. Exactly. I think as a business and as an entrepreneur, you don't really have a ceiling, right? Agreed.
And like for me, what's more beneficial than the money is my life,
is your life.
Like
the freedom.
My getting up in the, like there's a new book, but he talks about, I forgot the name, but there's like different types of success or wealth in the world. And there's time wealth, like the freedom to do what you want with your time. And then there's the money aspect of it, of course, and like there's so many other things, like, and so being able to build a lifestyle where I can attend to all the other areas of my life, that's so helpful and important to me, plus do what I enjoy and make money, that's like the ultimate dream.
It's your ikigai has been satisfied, right? It's the perfect balance of everything, and I'm totally with you there. And that's also part of the reason I remember I switched out, because I'm like, this is taking away from my weekends. My husband and I, you know, we want to do a lot more things, and you start to figure it out. You start to figure out your system and still continue making money in the same way and enjoying what you do. I think we love just working with women, and we're invested in people. So this is a good reason probably why we thrive. Right?
Totally.
We care about the other end. It's not about just like bringing home a paycheck at the end of the day.
No, we actually enjoy what we're doing, and it shows, and our customers are happy. You know, it's not like when it becomes just about the money, is like your customers stop being happy. You know, your customers are complaining.
You
and
see
all of that.
You see that in certain vendors, right? I'm sure you must have come across not necessarily just hair and makeup artists, but certain decor
Also, there's a lot of people working for just the money,
just the money. Because that's what they think. Oh, I can make as much as a doctor, so I just want to.
But the thing is that, like, I think that one of the mistakes that brides might be making, or even other people, is like, you can't tell behind the photo. Sometimes brides can't tell, like, that it's not done correctly, or the customer service that goes behind that. And I think all of it really matters. It's not just the results of the hair. Yeah. You know, and there's other stuff.
So would you say in-person training is necessary for aspiring artists? Because a lot of people are self-taught, you know, and how would you say in-person training differs from online training?
So, funny story, I had a person message me and was like, because I have an online course now too.
Yeah, you do.
So she said I could just watch tutorials, and it could be further from the truth. I think that online courses serve their purpose, and I think hands-on courses serve their purpose, but learning from the right teacher also. Yes. And I think it's hard to tell who's a good teacher sometimes, but hands-on I think is best for someone who has never had formal training. So a beginner, or even someone who's been in the field for 4 or 5 years but has never taken a hands-on class. Right. And the reason I say that from experience, like, I was the artist who was like, I can figure this out on my own, and I will teach myself and all of that. But I think also I wasn't ready to fully commit to the business. Right. And so when I took my first hands-on class, my styling jumped. My business 100%. Jumped to the next level, because I'm not guessing. I'm not trying to figure it out on my own. There's an artist there who she figured it out. Yeah. And I don't have to be that person. Yeah. Hands-on,
and she's willing to share.
And she's willing to share. So that really changed the game for me. And then I would say after hands-on, I've only been learning online, because now I get it. Like, now I understand.
You have your framework in place. Yeah. You're absolutely right, actually. What's interesting is I went through, the full hair school, color cutting, So we had a module it's called long hair design, where you learn how to curl and how to pin, and you learn just the basics, because there's only so much you can pack. I couldn't take any of that and apply it to real life. But because I had certain foundational skills, I was able to learn more on my own, on my mannequin, and just kind of get creative. But there were many roadblocks. It was when I went directly to a bridal hair artist. Okay. That is when I was like, oh my gosh, this is complete, it changed my motor skills. It changed my the muscle memory. There was just so many benefits that I personally found learning from an artist. So then I realized, when you want to learn and master something, go to the person in person and learn from them. Yeah. Totally. Just like I took the Hollywood Waves class, because your waves are perfection. Like, I have yet to see anyone create Hollywood waves like that. Like, every single one. Obsession. Yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with figuring it out.
Yeah. So, right. And that's exactly it. I love in-person training. And I also find sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, just being in the energy and space of another individual is just, it's so, you just walk out feeling so fired up and inspired, right?
You nailed it. I think the girl that I went to take the class from, I was in awe of her hairstyles, and going and watching her work, I realized what it's going to take. Yes, I learned the techniques.
And you're willing.
But and I'm willing. You have to obviously be willing. Yeah. But I learned, and I know some of the students who my class that just passed, on day one, I knew they were ready to leave and go, because they realized what it takes. And yes, I did day 2 and day 3 of the class, but I knew some of the students, they're like, I'm ready to go. I know now what it's going to take for me to get this right.
Just let me fly from your nest.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. And you're just excited. And sometimes you need a dose of excitement along with, the technical skills that you're learning. Yeah. I think now in this stage of our career, because we know a lot of powerhouse women around us, and we all get together every so often, so you kind of get that dose.
Yes.
But
you need to be around people who are, like you said, exude that energy of like excellence and perfection, and from the years of experience. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's totally, and also like someone said it really well, which is like the learning happens when you pay for the course.
Yes.
Not when you actually take the course. Your willingness to invest in yourself,
Yes.
to say that I believe that I can go somewhere with this, that's where it starts, because you start to get that excitement, you start to get that motivation, you start to dream bigger.
That's so true.
And then you take the
Very good
course,
point.
but you've already paid and you've already made that commitment to
And
yourself.
you've kind of created the environment in your mind to accept that information.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking back to when you started, would you say you would do anything differently?
I think, I'm a big believer, like everything happens for a reason. And, whatever journey I was on, I was meant to be on. I think I would just educate, like get my hair education much faster. I definitely feel like I struggled for years and my career only started after I took a course and was like willing to take it more seriously. So I wish I had just taken it more seriously, like from the start. And yeah, I think that's the main thing, but also...
But there might be some beauty around the fact that you started it as something fun, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I know what you mean. There are things you look back and you're like, this could have happened a little bit sooner, but then you're like, I do trust the timing of everything.
That's the thing. Like, I say that, but only like when now I value having learned after, and then you want to implement it because you like struggled for so long.
Yeah,
totally.
I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be in your life,
sure.
right? What would you say is like your proudest moment so far?
My proudest moment has been like when I get messages from people saying, they say things about Masuda Face as a brand. It really makes me like really proud.
It lights you up.
It lights me up. It makes me realize, like, you know how like you feel like you're like getting up every day and you need to like make a statement and like get your customers and whatever like that. And then you realize that like people are seeing your business as a certain way. They see you. They're like, I've heard about you.
And exactly how you chose to communicate that message.
Yeah.
Right?
Like all the years of your hard work, and like people are like recognizing you for that. It's like, for me, and you've become a brand and you're not just like a struggling artist anymore. I think that for me, like Masuda Face is now like has a certain standard. And so that to me is just like, you can't take that away from someone, at least for now. It's really for me my proudest.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love the fact that you feel proud of that, because I think as women sometimes we're told to kind of dial that back, you know, or you can feel it inside, but you can't really, talk about it so openly. And so this is why I like situations like this, like, no, come out and like speak and tell people that it's okay to feel proud that people are talking about you and all your hard work, because that's what it is. It's your hard work and dedication for so many years. Yeah,
you're not supposed to be like blending in together. Like it's important to know that you are a certain way, and then like and it's because of all the hard work that you put in and like the tone that you want it set. So yeah,
100%.
totally.
So what would you say is like next for you? Any exciting projects? Any new products to add to the list, to the lineup? Because I'll buy everything.
I love it. Honestly, you've always supported me so much, like the hair donut and everything. I really appreciate it. I don't have anything. I actually do have a new online course, but that's it's still along the same lines as education. But it's like perfect timing, honestly. When you asked me to come on, I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I'm going through a rebrand a little bit right now.
Okay.
I do want to take Masuda Face a little bit of a different direction. It's still going to be bridal hair and education and all that, but I want to show up in the space differently. I want to, like, I think the more and more you are in business, the more and more you find your voice and like who you are and your personality.
That's exactly where I'm at right now. So
I
can so relate to you entirely. You need your voice. You need to be louder.
You become more confident in being yourself online. And like, I think we all like follow each other in the industry, and I say, oh, okay, we're supposed to post tutorials and we're supposed to like post these kinds of photos or whatever. But like, I find that there's more, like, I feel more fulfilled when I'm more myself online and showing up the way that like who I really am. So I want to bring more of that personality, more of who I am. More
interviews, more podcasts. I would love to like bring you back, some months later and kind of see how everything has evolved at that point too, because every day is there's new evolution, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to have you back.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
I,
Thank you.
really expand on some of the things that we talked about today. I feel like we can go on for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, 100%.
When it comes to our industry, and just definitely people want to see more of you, right? Because I think that's the first thing I was drawn to, because I met you in person before I saw you online. I'll be honest, but that was also quite a long time ago. And I was like, there's something in her,
right.
Or there's certain individuals that will just, captivate my attention because those are the things I value, like I mentioned earlier, right? It's also, I think, a lot to do with the fact that growing up, I didn't come from an environment where there was a lot of structure. There was a lot of chaos in my family and my childhood. But I was a little bit different, and I was like, this is what it needs. This is the stability you need in your mind. You need structure, you need organization, you need planning, you need calmness. So when I meet people like that, I'm instantly like, oh, okay, I see it in practice.
Yeah.
So I learned over time to embody that myself, because I wasn't this calm, a few years ago. Definitely not.
To me, you're completely calm and confident.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's what it is. We've evolved into that, right? Okay, so and finally, where can our listeners find you? If they want to book you, they want to take your classes, they want to take your online classes. Of course, I'm going to link everything in the description below. But
so you can find me on my Instagram, Masuda Face, or just on masudaface.com. But if you're like thinking of getting into like starting your own side business, or even advancing like your existing skills or anything like that, you can just send me a DM podcast and we can just chat, and I'll know that you've come from here, so I'll give you like some extra wisdom and guidance and all of that.
I love that.
Yep.
Really appreciate you being here, and if I could keep you here all day long, I would.
I know. I want to keep chatting, but I know we got to stop.
Yeah. With that, thank you so much.
No,
we'll
thank
see you
you
again.
Yes. Thank you for having me.